In this video, we're going to talk about how to convert a decimal number into a fraction. Now we're going to start with some easy examples, and then gradually we're going to work our way towards harder examples. So let's start with this one, 0.4. How can we convert this number into a fraction? Now the first thing that I recommend doing is writing this over 1. Now we need to get rid of the decimal number, and so we need to multiply 0.4 by 10. And whatever you do to the top of a fraction, you must also do to the bottom, so that the value of the fraction remains the same. So we need to multiply the top and the bottom by 10. So 0.4 times 10 is 4. 1 times 10 is 10. So now we have a fraction, 4 over 10. Now we need to check to see if we can reduce the fraction, if we could simplify it. 4 and 10 are both even numbers, so what we can do is divide each by 2. Once again, whatever you do to the top of a fraction, you must also do to the bottom of the fraction. 4 divided by 2 is 2, 10 divided by 2 is 5. And so that's one way in which you can convert a decimal to a fraction. So 0.4 is equal to 2 over 5 as a fraction. So now it's your turn. Based on the last example, go ahead and convert this one into a fraction. Feel free to pause the video and try it. So let's begin by writing this over 1, and then just like before, we're going to multiply the top and the bottom by 10. So 0.8 times 10 is 8, 1 times 10 is 10. So we get the fraction 8 over 10. Now let's divide the numerator and the denominator by 2, since 8 and 10 are both even numbers. 8 divided by 2 is 4, 10 divided by 2 is 5. And so the answer is 4 over 5. Now let's try another example. So let's say if we have the number 4.6. How can we convert this into a fraction? So we're going to follow the same process. We're going to write it over 1. And then we're going to multiply the top and the bottom by 10 to get rid of the decimal. 4.6 times 10 is 46. 1 times 10 is 10. And now let's simplify. So we have two even numbers. Let's begin by dividing both numbers by 2. So half of 46 is 23. Half of 10 is 5. So this is the answer as an improper fraction. But let's go ahead and convert it into a mixed number. So how can we do that? There's different ways of doing this. I'm going to show you 2 ways, and then you can pick and choose which way you prefer. One way I like to think about it is 23 is the sum of 20 and 3. But now, you need to split it into 2 separate fractions. So 23 over 5 is the sum as 20 over 5 plus 3 over 5. 20 divided by 5 is 4, and 4 plus 3 over 5 is the same as 4 and 3/5. So that's one way in which you can convert an improper fraction into a mixed number. Now the other method, which you might be more familiar with, is long division. So you can ask yourself, how many times does 5 go into 23? 5 goes into 23 4 times. And so you get the whole number 4. Now 5 times 4 is 20, and 23 minus 20 is 3. So you get a remainder of 3, and this number is going to be the same. So the denominator of a fraction and its mixed number will be the same. Just keep that in mind. So now let's work on a similar example. Let's convert 9.4 into a fraction and into a mixed number. So let's begin by multiplying the top and the bottom by 10. So 9.4 times 10 will give us 94. 1 times 10 is 10. And now let's divide the top number and the bottom number by 2. Half of 94 is 47. Half of 10 is 5. So we get 47 over 5. Now how many times does 47 go into 5? 47 goes into 5 9 times. Now the denominator will stay the same. 9 times 5 is 45, and 47 minus 45 is 2. So that's a quick way in which you can convert an improper fraction into a mixed number mentally. But for those of you who don't want to do it that way, if you want to show your work, you can break up 47 into 45 plus 2. And then you could say 45 divided by 5 is 9. 9 plus 2 over 5 is the same as 9 2/5. So 9.4 is equal to 47 over 5 as an improper fraction, which is also equal to 9 2/5 as a mixed number. Now let's change it up a bit. So let's say we have 0.28 as a decimal. How can we convert this into a fraction? So just like before, we're going to write this number over 1. Now instead of multiplying the top and the bottom by 10, what we need to do is multiply the top and the bottom by 100, because we need to move the decimal point 2 units to the right. Last time it was just 1 unit to the right, and so we multiplied by 10. 0.28 times 100 is 28, and 1 times 100 is 100. So now we need to simplify. At this point, what we could do is divide the top and the bottom by 2 multiple times until we get our fully simplified fraction. Or what we could do is break up these numbers into smaller numbers. For instance, we could say that 28 is 7 times 4, and 100 is 25 times 4. And so we could cancel the 4, and now we have our answer as a reduced fraction, which is 7 over 25. Now granted, we could have done this. You could have said 28 divided by 2 is 14, and 100 divided by 2 is 50. And then you could divide it by 2 again. 14 divided by 2 is 7, 50 divided by 2 is 25. That could work. But when you're dealing with bigger numbers, I think that this method is much easier because it can save you a lot of time. But once again, you pick and choose which method you prefer and stick with that, whichever you're more comfortable with. I'm showing you different ways so that you can find more easier, faster ways to get your homework done. Now let's move on to another example. Let's try this one, 0.35. Go ahead and convert that into a fraction. So just like before, we're going to multiply the top and the bottom of the fraction by 100. And so 0.35 times 100 is 35. And 1 times 100 is 100. Now, based on the last example, how can we decompose these two numbers, 35 and 100, in such a way that we can cancel something? Now, what two numbers multiply to 35? 35 is 5 times 7, and 100 is 5 times 20. Thus, we can cancel the 5. And so the answer is 7 over 20. So 0.35 is equal to 7 over 20 as a fraction. Now let's try another example, 3.45. Go ahead and work on that one. So what I'm going to do is multiply the top and the bottom by 100. And so I'm going to get 345 over 100. Now this is one way of doing it. I'm going to show you another way as well. Now at this point, we need to simplify what we have. So what you could do is you can divide both numbers by 5. If the last number ends in a 5 or a 0, you could divide it by 5. So 345 divided by 5 is 69. And 100 divided by 5 is 20. Now let's see if we can turn that into a mixed number. 69, I could break it down into 60 plus 9. But both numbers must be divided by 20. Now 60 divided by 20 is 3. So I have 3 plus 9 over 20, which is 3 and 9 20. So this is the answer as an improper fraction, and this is our answer as a mixed number. So let's talk about another way in which we can get the answer. So starting with 3.45, what we could have done is write it as a sum of two numbers, 3 plus 0.45. Now we could focus on converting this into a fraction. So I'm going to do that at the bottom. So I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by 100. And so this is going to give me 45 over 100. Now 45 is 5 times 9. 100 is 5 times 20. And so 0.45 simplifies to 9 over 20. Now going back to the top, we have 3 plus 9 over 20, which we can write that as a mixed number, 3 and 9 over 20. And so there's many ways in which you can arrive at the right answer. There's multiple ways. You just have to pick and choose which method works best for you. Now let's work on another example, but a little different than the last one. So let's say if we have three numbers to the right of the decimal point, how can we convert this decimal number into a fraction? Instead of multiplying the top and the bottom by 10 or 100, this time we need to multiply it by 1,000. 0.436 times 1,000 is 436. 1 times 1,000 is 1,000. Now, if you can't think of a way to break down these numbers into smaller numbers, you can just divide both numbers by 2. And so 4 divided by 2 is 2. 36 divided by 2 is 18. 1,000 divided by 2 is 500. Now let's do it one more time. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. 18 divided by 2 is 9. So it should be 109 instead of 19. 500 divided by 2 is 250. Now, do you think we could simplify this any further? It doesn't look like we can. So this is the final answer. 109 divided by 250. That's equal to 0.436. Here's another one, 3.156. Go ahead and convert that into a fraction. So I'm going to write this as the sum of 3 plus 0.156. And so I'm going to focus on this number. Let's multiply the top and the bottom by 1,000. And so we're going to get 156 on top, 1,000 on the bottom. So let's begin by dividing the top and the bottom number by 2. So 156 divided by 2 is 78. And 1,000 divided by 2 is 500. Now let's divide it by 2 again. 78 divided by 2 is 39. 500 divided by 2 is 250. And so right now what we have is 3 plus 39 over 250. And so this gives us the mixed number 3 and 39 over 250. Now, if you ever need to convert the mixed number into an improper fraction, here's what you can do. So first, you need to multiply the whole number by the denominator. So it's 3 times 250, and then add the numerator. So plus 39. All divided by the denominator. Now 3 times 250 is 750. 750 plus 39 is 789. And so this is the answer as an improper fraction, if you need to report it as such. But that's how you can convert a mixed number back into an improper fraction. So let me give you another example. Let's say if I have 5 and 3 over 7. So the denominator will stay the same, but what I need to do is multiply the whole number by the denominator. So that's 5 times 7, which is 35, and then add the numerator to it. So 35 plus 3 is 38. So 38 over 7 is equal to 5 and 3/7. Now what would you do if we have a repeating decimal. So basically 0.1 and it goes forever, which we can write as 0.1 repeating. How can we convert this into a fraction? Now this is something you just have to know. There's no other way around it. 0.1 repeating is 1 over 9. Likewise, 0.2 repeating is 2 divided by 9. And 0.3 repeating is 3 over 9. But this one, we can reduce this one because we can divide both numbers by 3. And so 0.3 repeating in its simplest form is 1 over 3. Now let's say if we have two different numbers repeating, for instance 0.39 repeating. So this is the same as 0.39, 39, 39, and so forth. How can we convert this into a fraction? So this is going to be 39 divided by 99. So since we have two numbers to the right of the decimal point, we need to divide it by 2 nines instead of 1. Now, our next step is to reduce the fraction. So we can divide both numbers by 3. 39 divided by 3 is 13. 99 divided by 3 is 33. So the answer is 13 over 33. Try this one, 4.36 repeating. Go ahead and work on that. So the 4 is not repeating, only the 3/6 part is repeating. But what you want to do is you want to break this up into two parts. That is 4 plus 0.36 repeating. In the next line, we can rewrite the 4, but 0.36, we can write that as 36 over 99. Now, 36 is 9 times 4, and 99 is 9 times 11. So thus we could cancel the 9, and this will give us 4 plus 4 over 11. So our answer as a mixed number is 4 and 4/11. Now, if you want to convert that into an improper fraction, you need to multiply 4 by 11, which is 44, and then add 4 to it, which will give you 48. And so that's a quick way to convert a mixed number to an improper fraction. So we can write our answer like this, 48 over 11, or 4 and 4/11. Let's try a similar example. 5.27 repeating. So go ahead and pause the video and work on that problem. So I'm going to write this as 5 plus 0.27 repeating, and then we can convert 0.27 repeating into 27 over 99. Now 27 is 9 times 3. 99 is 9 times 11. So canceling the 9, what we have is 5 plus 3 over 11, which gives us the following mixed number. And to convert that to an improper fraction, first let's write the denominator, and then it's going to be 5 times 11, which is 55, plus 3, and so that's 58. And so that's it for that problem. Now here's another one. What if we had 0.83, but only the 3 is repeating? How can we convert this decimal number into a fraction? What do you think? So if I were to expand it, I have 0.833333, and it continues forever. So the 3 is the repeating part, the 8 is not. So what you want to do is you want to start with this number and subtract it by the repeating part, which is 0.333333. And so you're going to get 0.5. Thus, we could represent 0.83 repeating as being 0.5 plus 0.3 repeating. Once you see that, and once you write it this way, now it gets easier. So 0.5, we need to convert that to a fraction. If you multiply the top and bottom by 10, this will give you 5 over 10, which you could reduce that. 10 is basically 5 times 2, and 5 is the same as 5 times 1. So the 5's cancel, and you get 1/2. So 0.5 is just 1 over 2. And 0.3 repeating, we know it's 1 over 3. And so what we need to do is add these two fractions. In order to add the two fractions, we need to get common denominators. So I'm going to multiply this one by 2 over 2, and the first one by 3 over 3. And so on the left, I'm going to get 3 times 1, which is 3, and 3 times 2, which is 6. On the right, 1 times 2 is 2, 3 times 2 is 6. So now that I have like denominators, I can now add the numerators of the two fractions. So 3 plus 2 is 5, and I get 5 over 6, which is the answer. So 5 over 6 is equal to 0.83 repeating. Now let's move on to another example. So let's work on 0.52 repeating. Go ahead and take a minute to work on that. So this is 0.5 with the 2's repeating. So I need to subtract the original number by the repeating decimal, which is 0.222222. So all of the 2's will cancel, as you can see here. And what I have left over is 0.5 minus 0.2, which gives me 0.3. And so I could say that 0.52 repeating is the sum of 0.3, that's the non-repeating part, plus 0.2 repeating. Now 0.3, based on the first examples that we went over, if we multiply by 10 over 10, this will give us 3 over 10. 0.2 repeating is 2 over 9. And so we need to combine these two fractions. So I'm going to multiply 2 over 9 by 10 over 10 and 3 over 10 by 9 over 9. And this will give me common denominators. 9 times 3 is 27. 9 times 10 is 90. 2 times 10 is 20. 9 times 10 is 90 as well. So now that these numbers are the same, I can add 27 and 20, which gives me 47. And so this is the answer. It's 47 over 90. So that's 0.52 repeating. Now here's another example, 4.915. So this time only the 1/5 part is repeating. So go ahead and try that. This one involves more steps, so to speak. Well, let's begin by expanding the number. So this is 4.915, and then the 1/5 will continue to repeat. Now what should we subtract this number by? Should we subtract it by 0.15 repeating or 0.51 repeating? What would you say? Which one is it? Well, let's find out. So what I'm going to do is write the numbers from right to left. So since I have a 5 here, this needs to be a 5. And so forth. They have to match. Now after a 1 comes a 5. So technically, I need to subtract it by 0.51 and not 0.15. So I want the 1's and 5's here to cancel. And so what I'm doing now is subtracting 4.9 by 0.5, which will give me 4.4. So I could say my original expression, 4.915 repeating, is the sum of 4.4 plus this number here, which it starts with the 0.5, so that's 0.51 repeating, as opposed to 0.15 repeating. And so watch out for that, because sometimes those numbers may switch on you, and so you have to be careful. Now, 4.4, I'm going to write it as 4 plus 0.4. So I have three things I need to deal with in this example. So let's make some more space. Let's get rid of this stuff on the top. So what I now have is 4 plus, now 0.4 repeating, we can write that as 4 over 10 if I multiply 0.4 by 10 over 10. And 0.51 repeating, that's going to be 51 over 99. Now, 4 over 10, that's basically 4, you can write that as 2 times 2. 10 is 2 times 5. And so we could cancel the 2. 51 is 17 times 3. And 99 is 33 times 3. So we can cancel the 3. And so right now I have 4 plus 2 over 5 plus 17 over 33. So now I'm going to focus on adding these two fractions. Now I'm going to multiply this one by 5 over 5 and 2 over 5 by 33 over 33. So this will give me a common denominator because, as you can see, these two are the same. And so this is going to be 4 plus, now 33 times 2 rather, that's 66, and 33 times 5. 30 times 5 is 150, 3 times 5 is 15, 150 plus 15, that's 165. And here I have 17 times 5. 10 times 5 is 50, 7 times 5 is 35, 50 plus 35 is 85. So now we can add 85 plus 66. 5 plus 6 is 11, carry over the 1. 1 plus 8 is 9, plus 6, that's 15. So right now I have 4 plus 151 over 165. So the answer as a mixed number is 4 and 151 over 165. Now let's convert our answer into an improper fraction, just in case we needed to. So first, we need to rewrite the denominator. This is not going to change. Next, we need to multiply 4 by 165, which is 660, and then add 151 to it. So 660 plus 151, that's 811. And so this is the answer as an improper fraction. And that's basically it for this video. So now you know how to convert a decimal number into a fraction or into a mixed number. Thanks for watching.